Rami is the founder and executive of RMK Coaching, which is the career coaching company. And I would like to hand over to Rami. Welcome, Rami, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Mo. It's my pleasure. Hi, everyone. Glad to see you all here. That's a great number of attendees. So I hope you guys will enjoy the session. I will be sharing my presentation and we should be getting started shortly. Okay, so I'll start with a brief introduction. So about myself, and then we'll dive deep into the presentation. So just briefly about myself, I have a bachelor's degree in structural engineering. I also have 50 plus certifications in the management as business fields. I'm a member of the Global Goodwill Ambassadors and also of many other global organizations like PMI, IIBA, PMO Global Alliance, and I also hold many volunteer positions with many organizations, and I am also a PMI affiliate. I have more than 17 years of experience in project portfolio program management. My experience is both nationally and internationally. I've worked in so many places overseas on large projects. And I've been doing career coaching and professional development mentoring for quite a while. So the presentation today will be actually based on my own lessons learned and experience. It's not out of any book or it's not a theory. It's based on experience gathered over the years. So I'll walk you through the agenda for today. We have three important topics we'll talk about. One is the pain points or the concerns that many do face during their journey, whether they are new graduates or experienced professionals. The other part will be to just provide high-level career tips for professionals who are looking to change their career or new graduates who are looking to venture into practice. And then the last section will be tips on how to overcome career obstacles. So let's start with the first section here. So in this section, I will be discussing about the most common career concerns that, over the years, I've mentored so many candidates and I heard so many concerns, and I myself, back in the days, I had my own concerns. So these are the most common concerns that I hear from professionals or from new graduates. So the first one is defining a career path. So many people say, how can I define my career path? Okay, what I've discovered later that this is not what I want to do. We will go through all of these later in the session. I'm just going to list here the major concerns, and if anybody has a question, please feel free to write it down. The second concern that I've always heard is establishing a professional resume. So, for example, new graduates, many say, I don't have any experience yet, so how can I establish a resume? Or other experienced professionals do always have a concern, should my resume be very detailed and ATS compliant? ATS compliance is a big thing these days with all these AI applications going on. Is having a LinkedIn profile an asset? As I said, we will go through all of these throughout the presentation. The third concern is applying for jobs. How can I apply for a job? Applying for a job is an art. It's not just straightforward as many people think. And I'm sure many of you have tried to apply for jobs over the years and they didn't get any response. There are certain ways how to tackle applying for jobs, but we won't go into the details for this in this webinar, maybe in future webinars. The other concern, which I already mentioned, that so many people hear that online job applications are not as effective. They are as effective if you apply in a certain way, and if your resume is ATS compliant, because the first step of screening is by using artificial intelligence. Then it goes to an actual human being for further processing. The other concern is going for interviews. So some people have never been into an interview, so they get overwhelmed and they don't know how to prepare for an interview. And many others do not know how our interview is structured. And the last one is starting a new job. There is a difference between a job and a career, by the way. A job is temporary, a career is lifetime. So, for example, people don't know what to do if they don't feel comfortable within an organization. Some people feel afraid to leave because they are afraid not to find another job. Some people feel they are comfortable, but they are not growing. So there are so many ways to deal with this, which we will go briefly through during this webinar. So one of the most common questions that I receive from experienced professionals, and it's a major concern for so many, much more than you could imagine, is if they can change their career if they are not satisfied. And the answer for this is a big yes. Why? So, like if you discover at some point in your career that this is not what you actually want to do, then you're not alone. For sure, you're not alone, and you don't have to stay in what you're doing. You can always change your career no matter what, because if you stay in a career that you don't like, it will reflect negatively on your performance at some point and on your health. And again, I'm talking about this out of my own experience. So regardless of how many years of experience you have, changing career paths isn't impossible. So I'll go through a few points with you here. So one of them is management skills are transferable. So regardless of what you do, skills like planning, problem solving, decision making, and others are all transferable, regardless of what you do, regardless of what your career is. The other one is interpersonal and soft skills apply to all careers, like communication skills, effective communication, emotional intelligence, active listening, leadership, and many, many other skills. They apply to all careers. And soft skills and management skills are 50% of what you need to excel in any career. So the other 50% are technical, but those are also easy to deal with. So changing career, it might seem difficult short term, but it pays off long term. The way you adapted in the first career and organization, you can do the same in the new organization. The hardest part is learning the soft skills. The easiest part is learning the technical skills. It could take you 2 to 3 months. You will get over it. And this relates to my second point, which is you can always learn the same way you learned in your previous career. So you went through a career path when you started, but you didn't have any soft skills. Now you have an advantage. You're changing careers with all your soft skills in your pocket. So you do have a big advantage and you will learn much faster. Now the last one is self-reflection. This is a very important one. You have to always self-reflect on yourself, inspect and adapt as you go. And when you do that, you will realize that change is a must sometimes. It is a necessity. So I will jump to the next slide now, and I will explain here how someone can transition from one career to another. Now these steps might seem so easy for the audience, but they are actually not easy at all. You have to put and do some serious due diligence for this. But before I continue, Nathan, does anybody have any questions?
No, there are no questions in the chat currently.
Excellent. Okay, I'll carry on. So the first one is choose the right career path. So make sure you have a clear idea about the new career path you want to pursue. And most importantly, establish a measurable goal so you can measure against your achievements in the future and make sure you are really doing what you want to do. So developing the right path is important, but also a measurable goal is even more important. The second one is establish a transition plan. So just like you plan for any project, you need to put a plan for yourself with a timeline of what you want to achieve over the next 5 years. And this needs to be a detailed plan. I myself, throughout my career, I did follow a plan, and this plan requires a high level of commitment and sense of ownership. So you need to own your plan. Now, choose the right organization. This might be tricky for some people, but it's important, especially when you're changing careers, that you go and choose an organization where you know or feel that they will help you establish your career goals and you will find yourself there. I know it might not be as clear from the beginning if this organization will or will not support your goals, but as someone who is experienced, you will know early in the game. Now, one more thing also, to choose the right time. What I mean by choose the right time is sometimes people leave their career and or their job and go start looking for another job or change their careers or decide to change their career, just quit their current job and move to another job and move to look for another job, and they feel disappointed because they end up not finding any work. So my advice to all of you is to make this transition smooth, which means make some overlap between what you are currently doing and what you want to do in the future. Now, what I find also helps a lot is to pursue some professional development. Besides changing your career, if you feel there are some courses that you can take or certifications that you can study and that will support you in your career change, please do that, because this proved to be so very helpful. Now we come here to the section where I will go through some general tips about each and every phase. You can in fact, these apply to all phases of your career, and these are just general tips that I gathered throughout my experience. Nathan, does anybody have any questions?
No, not yet, as of right now.
Okay, good. So the first tip is be confident. So confidence is very important, and it will boost your morale, especially for new graduates. Employers will look for soft skills more than technical skills because they don't expect you to come in as an experienced professional. But while they can monitor your soft skills and see your level of confidence and how you communicate, your emotional intelligence level, and how you develop. As somebody who's graduated recently, you should be mindful of this. Always be confident. The second advice is be patient. You have to always remember that for long-term success, you have to climb the ladder one step at a time. I've seen so many people who likes to skip steps. Yes, this might get you at some point an extra 1 or 2 degrees, but you'll stop there. You won't continue to the top. Believe in yourself. So, there is a saying, if I can do it, you can do it. I think everybody can do it if they have the right commitment and sense of ownership. And, everybody has a hero in themselves. So you need to get this hero out in you and just believe in yourself and pursue what you love most. Learn as much as you can. We live and learn every day. Like they say, life is a very long lesson. Some people come and tell me, why do you have 50 and more certifications? Like, this is too much. It's never too much. If you follow my posts and profile, every certification I've taken, it added so much value to my career progress, to my journey, either knowledge-wise, experience-wise, networking-wise, in so many different directions. The next advice is establish a career plan. As I said, this might look so simple for others, but it's actually not, and it's very important. When you establish a career plan and set some measurable goals that you can reflect upon from time to time, you will excel in a much better way, and you will know where you are and if you are doing what you love to do from the start. It won't take you 10 years to know that. The next one is ask when you don't know. And this specifically, especially applies to experienced professionals. So many people think because they feel shy to ask because they are experienced. Well, I'm going to tell you something. I am telling you this out of my own experience. If I don't know, I always ask. Because if I get asked later and I don't know, this is where I feel embarrassed. But the moment I feel that I don't know, I ask immediately so I can learn. And nobody knows everything, so don't feel shy to ask. Just put your ego on the side and ask. People and employers will feel happy when you ask because you will know, they will know you are attentive. Now the next one is don't be afraid to make mistakes. You know, you can have a mentor with you that teach you everything out of their own experience. But guess what? If you don't do some mistakes yourself, you will never know. You will never learn because nobody's experience is 100% identical to the other. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Make mistakes and learn from them. There's nothing wrong with that. Mistakes are okay. Many do think that mistakes are not okay. They are okay. They are one big way for all of you to learn. The next one is consult with a coach or mentor. And this is very important. Like I've heard so many people saying, why would I need a coach? Why would I need a mentor? Well, I was one of those people in the past until I really needed some guidance and I found a very good mentor and he helped me big time in my career progress. You know, there is no shame in you asking or seeking consultation from a coach or a mentor. We are there for a reason. But be aware. You need to do your due diligence before going to a coach or mentor. I personally don't really find lots of value in theory. I find lots of value in actual experience, in lessons learned. So that's why when I share things, I share them out of my own experience. Things I've experienced with others or with me personally during my journey. The next one is reflect on yourself frequently. You know, even if you're doing fantastic, sometimes, you know, I'm going to give you an example out of a project example. Sometimes you are ahead of schedule and you are below budget and everybody's happy. But are you actually delivering value? You won't know that unless you reflect and inspect and adapt. Being successful is much more than just being okay financially and you have a fantastic job that's high and you have a high pay. You have to weigh on other things. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now? How is your progress career wise? You know, everybody has their own ambitions, and so you reflect on yourself based on how your ambitions are. And this takes us to the next point: inspect and adapt. If I'm sure you've heard of business agility. Now, these days, companies would never be successful if they don't have business agility. And the COVID situation tested so many companies. Some of them went through it. Some of them just faded away. And the same goes for us. You have to do self-inspection and adaptation. You yourself have to be agile. Don't be so rigid. Be flexible. Be open to change. Always inspect and adapt because life changes every day. We live in a very rapidly evolving world. So always inspect and adapt. Even if you sit just for 15 minutes, think what you have done, what you can do better. It doesn't need to be a 10-hour session between you and yourself. Now, being honest and transparent is one like these are one of the two most important values, not only on a person level, but on a professional level. And the person you need to be most honest with is yourself. If you're not honest with yourself and you try just to go by every day, just for the sake of going by, at some point you will feel it and you will regret it. The next one is have sense of ownership. So commitment and loyalty are very important values. And when you establish a sense of ownership for what you do, you will do it best. Someone once told me that excellence is not a skill, it's an attitude. And it's 100% true. It's not a skill, it's an attitude. If you have an attitude of excellence, you will always be successful. And this brings us to the last tip, which is go above and beyond. As I mentioned, the world is evolving so rapidly. So you need to think outside the box. You need to stay ahead of the curve. This is how you always stand out of the competition. This is how you always stand out in your career among your colleagues. And doing this is either by taking courses, working on yourself in a certain way, taking coaching sessions, putting more effort on some other parts of experience. Like diversity in experience these days is very important. So before I jump into the next section, any questions or everybody's good?
Yeah, we have two questions coming in. First is from Matt. He asked, how do you recommend finding a mentor?
Well, that's a very important question. And as I mentioned earlier, Matt, you need to do your due diligence. First of all, before I go to a mentor, because a mentor is like a trusted advisor to you. He will be like a trusted advisor to you, he or she, of course. So first, check their profile. Check their testimonials. And for example, LinkedIn is big. I don't know any coach that do not have LinkedIn and do not post on LinkedIn. And you as a professional, even as a new graduate, you can get a feel if this is someone you really want him to mentor you and you can benefit from or not. But don't just Google mentors in Vancouver or mentor or whatever and just go for them. You have to do some due diligence. And the easiest way to find a mentor, and this is how so many people, for example, approach me. They just put on LinkedIn career mentor or career coach in Vancouver. And then you have a list of people. You can connect with them and then tell them I'm looking for a career coach. Talk to them. If somebody is not responsive to you when you send them a message, then you don't need this as a mentor. If somebody is responsive to you, you will get a level of comfort of how this person can be of added value to you. I hope I answered your question. I know it's not as easy to find a good mentor, but you have to do your due diligence for sure.
Oh, actually, another question from May is, what if you don't like your current job, but you're unsure of what job you're interested in? How do you approach this?
Sorry, can you come again?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Nathan.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So May asks, what if you don't like your current job, but you're unsure of what job you're actually interested in? How would you go about to approach this?
Well, this is where a mentor comes very handy. Somebody who you trust, you can share what you love, what you don't love, and you can both work together on putting a career plan together. This is, as I said earlier, Nathan, this is not an easy job. Now, the sure part is that you don't feel happy in your job. This is something that you won't feel it unless it's true. Now, the other part of it is how you're not sure what you want. This is where you should consult with a coach or mentor, and they can help you big time.
Yep. The question was answered. I guess another additional question, Denise asks to define what the difference is between a coach compared to a mentor.
Yeah, sure. So a mentor is like a trusted advisor. somebody who can be with you long term. The relationship is more informal, less structured. A coach is someone like a trainer, somebody delivering a training, for example, or a coaching session that is very formal and structured, and there is no long-term relationship. Usually with mentors, the relationship is, as I said, is more informal, and he or she can become like your trusted advisor over time. Like, I don't know anybody that I've mentored, for example, that I haven't been in touch with until now. And they always ask me all sorts of questions, and I establish a relationship with them on a personal and professional level. While me being a coach, delivering coaching sessions or, for example, training, it's just mostly limited to that training. It's very formal, very structured. There is an agenda, you follow the agenda, you follow timing, and all these kind of things. That's like very high level. Okay, so now we can jump onto our last section. So these are very high level tips I want to tell you about how to excel in your career, whether you're a new graduate or whether you are an experienced professional, whether you like your current job and career or whether you don't. These for me are always a must, and these all go hand in hand. So it's like project management processes. They all work in parallel. They overlap, all of them. So the first is professional development. So at some point in my career, I had to make a decision. Shall I go and do my PhD, or shall I pursue professional development in terms of certifications and courses? Well, after I did my due diligence and my cost to benefit analysis, I realized that these days, with this evolving world, the industry specific certifications are much more beneficial than just a general university certification. I mean, and I don't mean to undermine university certifications. They are very important. It's just for me, as someone who has a certain career plan, I found that professional development is very important. And it's very important for everybody. Nobody can know everything. And as I said, if you want to stay ahead of the curve, you need to start working on your professional development. I see so many job postings. I think 9 out of 10, besides asking sometimes for a bachelor's degree, they ask for certain certifications, whether it's a PMP, whether it's program management, whether it's Agile, whether it's Scrum. And I'm sure everybody sees these things. So professional development and certifications are very important these days. And professional development doesn't need to be a certification. It could be just a course with a university or a course from a trusted organization. For me, professional experience, practical experience combined with theory is a recipe for success. One cannot survive long term without the other. It's like reinforced concrete, cement and rebar. It's just a marriage relationship. Now the other thing is networking. Networking is super important. I've met so many people through networking. I've introduced so many people to others through networking. I developed my career and benefited throughout my journey from networking. You learn from people. I also learn from my mentees. It's not like I mentor people, I don't learn anything from them. I learn from their experience. I network with people. I see different stories. I learn from their stories. Some people invite me for interviews. Some people invite me for webinars. And I learn. This is how I develop myself. So networking is super important. Now, one of the most important things these days is LinkedIn. So, especially after the COVID, we all know that the new normal is going to be at least to the bare minimum 50% virtual. And LinkedIn is one of the best platforms. It it has explosive value if you know how to use it. And what I mean by know how to use it, it's not just have a profile there. You need to have a proper profile there. You need to have participation there. You need to be active. LinkedIn is a monster if you know how to use it. It is really, and you know, I have so many relationships with so many recruiters, and guess what I always hear? When somebody sends their resume, when people apply online, the first thing they do is Google their LinkedIn profile. So this is a very important step. And, you know, I myself, in the past, I took a 3-hour session with a LinkedIn coach. Imagine there are LinkedIn coaches. And I discovered that I was in the south and what I need to do properly is in the north. And then I started from there, and it really was of so much added value to me, a lot, whether it's in my own business, whether it's in my full-time employment, or whether it's on a personal level. It was so beneficial. So don't underestimate the value of having a LinkedIn profile, being active there, and networking. And the last one is just more of emphasis. I know we spoke about it. It's about self-reflection. As I mentioned, and I can't emphasize this enough, even if you are happy and you feel you are doing the right thing, you still have to self-reflect. Because sometimes you discover that while you're doing the right thing and you're happy with what you do, there is also always room for improvement. And this can come very handy for you in so many situations. So that concludes the main part of our presentation. So before I jump into the last slide, Nathan, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, we have quite a few interesting questions from our audience. The first question is, say if someone is unemployed because of COVID-19, how can they reset their career to be a project manager?
Well, I just need to understand the question. So what do you mean by reset my career? Are you already a project manager?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. That's kind of the extent of...
So let me answer it in general. Let me answer the way I understood the question. So I know so many people that were unemployed. They are project managers. Now, in different industries were affected differently during the COVID. So one of the industries that was least affected is the construction, but other industries were really affected very badly, and so many project managers were laid off. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you don't need to reset your career if you're remaining within your career as a project manager. Why? Because many of the soft skills, if not all, and your leadership skills are transferable. And if you are within your same industry, then you shouldn't have a problem. Now, more than ever, after the world and the organizations faced this pandemic, they look and they value expertise much more than I ever seen. So if you are an experienced professional, you're trying to find a new job within the same field, then I think you shouldn't have a problem. It's just a matter of timing. Now, many employers are still hesitating to recruit until they see how this situation will reveal itself. We live in a very high level of uncertainty. So it's just a matter of time. I think experienced professionals shouldn't have a problem, especially in a field like a project management. Project management careers are spreading like fire in a wild bush. What's the next question, Nathan?
Yeah, that's kind of brings it on to Shreya, who mentions that project management is considered industry agnostic in terms of, but like, however, job descriptions for project management seem to be very specific down to requiring a very specific tool or technology for that company in particular. And so with that said, yeah, like the sentiment is that hiring managers, they don't seem to see project management as a transferable skills. So in this case, do you believe that hiring managers perhaps need to be educated better, or should the job seeker be trained better?
It's both. I have to be fair with both parties. It's both. So I know some hiring managers who does not look into the details and ignore the fact that somebody have expertise and they can and they can learn a specific tool or technology immediately. And at the same time, I feel many job seekers come underprepared or undertrained. So that's why I said you have to stay ahead of the curve. So both parties have to play a proper role. On the other hand, I know so many hiring managers that really see project management as transferable skill, and I myself know like at least off the top of my head 5 persons who were recruited as project managers in an industry other than their industry of origin. Like for example, somebody who was managing real estate development projects is now managing healthcare projects. So yes, some do see it as this, some don't. Nobody is perfect and nobody sees things just like the others. Next question, Nathan.
Yeah, well, we have another question. So Ujim asks that they are a newcomer in Canada and they don't have any connections here, and they've tried LinkedIn, Eventbrite, but they don't feel that they are successful yet. And so, what are your recommendations on how we can improve our success rate for newcomers?
So there are so many ways you can do that. One of them is LinkedIn. As I mentioned earlier, LinkedIn is a very powerful platform. So don't feel shy to look for people in Vancouver. Connect with them. Send them a message. Tell them you are new here and you'd love to connect with them, learn from them. Be active on LinkedIn. Other thing is volunteer. Volunteer with local organizations like PMI, IIBA, and soon I will have a few open volunteer positions with the PMO Global Alliance. We will start working on creating a chapter for Vancouver. I always post these things on LinkedIn. So there are so many opportunities there. I understand Canada is not the easiest country for a newcomer. I've been there, I've done that, and I've had so much hard time. But you have to keep on it. And this is one way of doing it. Network, volunteer, and you will get there. Next question.
Yeah, I guess to kind of echo your earlier point, with the whole uncertainty of COVID. Another guest member asked, how positive do you feel that the trends will be for the job market within the next 3 months moving forward?
Now I can't be specific about a certain time frame, but I am fairly positive about the job market in Canada. First of all, we will have so many jobs and opportunities soon. It's just and they are already existent. It's just the employers are still hesitant to go ahead with them because of the level of uncertainty. But in generally speaking, I feel positive. I feel Canada will have a good recovery and there will be lots of jobs.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So another question is do you feel that a PMP is absolutely necessary in order to get your foot into PM management roles?
I can see the question. I want to do it, but I'm wondering if I should start looking before I achieve it. I'm not sure about what do you mean by looking before I achieve it. But do you think it's necessary to get a PMP designation? For me, expertise, there is nothing better than expertise. If you have no expertise and you have 10 PMPs, it doesn't make a difference. And I assure you, it won't make a difference for any organization either. So yes, PMP can complement your expertise, but it cannot replace it. So if you are an experienced professional, then yes, I assure you, PMP is a very good asset for you. Yes. I hope I answered the question.
Okay. Yeah. Another question from Gabriel is they're interested in seeking how to transition into Agile methodologies in terms of, do you feel that there's any suggestions for maybe perhaps any certifications that'll be very helpful towards that transition?
Sure. First of all, Agile is not a methodology. This is a very big mistake. So Agile is a more of a mindset and approach. And under the umbrella of this approach, there are so many methodologies, frameworks, and others like Scrum, Kanban, and Lean, and so many others. So you as a PM to transition to Agile approach, it's important, yes. So first you have to be Agile before you do Agile. And again, as I said, Agile start with adjusting your mindset by being flexible, by being accepting change, inspecting and adapting. One of the best certifications that I did benefit from is the PMI ACP. I know there are so many certifications in Agile, but the Agile Certified Practitioner from PMI was such an amazing start for me. It's really good. And especially that I used Mike Griffith's book. I still, up until these days, I refer to that book. It was an amazing journey. Like, it's so good. And why do I say that? Because the ACP will expose you to all the sides of the Agile, from methodology, from the management styles, and it will also dive a little bit into how to use a hybrid approach. A hybrid approach, it means waterfall and Agile environment together, which we use in construction these days.
Yeah, so one of our guests would like to ask for you to perhaps repeat the name of that book that helped you a lot.
It's a PMI ACP exam prep book. I will type it here, by Mike Griffith.
Okay, thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, no problem. I see one more question. Answer that, Nathan?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. I'm a Red Seal journeyman, HVAC art technician. I have also obtained my PMP certification, and I'm trying to change my career from being in the field to project coordination. Do you have any advice that would make the transition easier? Well, that's a very important question that I've seen so many people struggling with it. Now, the most important thing is that you have to have the organization willing to help you with this transfer. It's important that the organization support your decision, because this is not about you changing your career. This is about you changing your position. So, an advice about how you transition, the best way is to talk to your superior, tell him what's your career plan, and hoping he can support you with this change. Like, I work in construction, Liam, and I have more than 17 years specifically in construction, besides other things. And at some point, I wanted to move from the field to the office to start working in management and this and that. And the first step that I did, and it helped me a lot, is that I sat with my superior, I discussed my plans with them, and they supported me. So I highly recommend you do that. Okay, so let's go to our last slide. So just we will go through the main takeaways from this session. First of all, never hesitate to change your career if you're not satisfied. And again, I'm telling you this out of experience. I've witnessed so many people get the courage, believed in themselves, change their careers, and they are very successful. And by the way, funny enough, I just recently met a doctor at Royal Columbian Hospital in Vancouver. He's a urologist. And I was chatting with him because somehow he saw that I come from a structural engineering background. And he told me that 10 years ago or 12 years ago, he was a civil engineer, but he didn't like civil engineering. So he went, pursued medical school, and he's 50 years old. So, and he's much happier than ever. So, changing from engineering to become a doctor, a specialist, a urologist is one of the most difficult career changes. So don't feel hesitant. The next one is don't get overwhelmed venturing into the world of practice. This specific advice is for new graduates. Don't get overwhelmed. Things are easier than you think they are. Just follow the few advices and tips that I've given you throughout the presentation. And you know, don't take them high level. Think about them. See how they apply to you. And I hope they will help you go through this. The last one is to excel in your career. Again, I can't emphasize enough. You have to inspect, adapt, and think outside the box. This is so important these days, much more than ever. So that's it for me for now. I'm open to questions. If anybody have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. And you guys, if you feel free to add me on LinkedIn. My name is Rami Kaibni. I am on LinkedIn. Feel free to email me and I will be more than happy to help. So I'm open to questions. Nathan, anybody have any questions?
Not for the time being, but like I anticipate that some will probably be coming in. Oh, yep, and yeah, so I guess the quick question is I think this is something maybe like our PMI staff can answer, but like someone asked, they applied for the PMI finance manager volunteer position. When will the results be coming out?
That's outside of my expertise. That's an Ed question, probably.
Yeah, this is Ed. I can answer that. I think it's still being posted right now, and the evaluation team for the position is currently looking at that. So it might take a while. We're 100% volunteer organization, so it's something that needs to happen when we get together. So please be patient with us on that.
Yes, I think we have a couple of more questions.
Do we? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, may have asked, there are so many certifications out there. How do you know which ones are the best to invest in?
Well, that's a you question. What do I mean by a you question? Is the best person to answer this is you. You know, as I said, if you put a career plan for yourself and define a proper path with measurable goals, then you will be able to know which certification is best for you.
Edward, I think we have another question for you. David is asking where and will this be posted if you want to see it again.
Just a second, please, Mo. I just want to share. So this article, you can click there and you can download the article in PDF. It was published in the PM World Journal. It's the added value of professional development. Within this article, you will see the steps of how to see which certification is best for and suits your career path best. What's the next question, Mo?
Yes, Rami, it was a question for Edward. So they have been asked where we're gonna share the material. So we're gonna post. As we are recording this session, we're gonna upload it later on YouTube, and you can basically access the recorded session through our YouTube channel. Okay, correct. I assume if there is no other question.
I see one more question from Ines, I think. How do you transfer your soft skills from your home country to Canada if you cannot prove them? Well, soft skills, you can adapt your soft skills, but I'm not sure what you mean by transferring them. Your soft skills apply globally. All you need to adapt is your soft skills based on the country's culture. That's the most challenging part, is to adapt your skills based on the country's culture, because each country have their own culture. But when you live in a country like Canada, it's a country that prides itself of the diversity. So you shouldn't have a big problem with that. But yeah, so I see your question now. Like if you said something in your resume and they cannot prove that, well, the only way to prove your soft skills is your probation period, 3 months probation period. So there is you can't prove that by a course or certification. Soft skills specifically are experience based, and they reveal themselves during your work, your actual work. So this is something you put on your resume, but if somebody asks you for a proof, then I don't think you should work for them, because the proof is in the pudding, like they say. It's what you do is the proof of your soft skills. It's not what you have on paper. So they need to give you a chance.
Thank you, Rami. I also have a question. One of the concerns that I also, I had here when I moved to Vancouver, is how to adopt or how to, translate my resume from my home country here in North American style, because I came to know that there are so many different North American style that I was not familiar with, either the job description or the position or the format and the frame of of my resume. So can you introduce any kind of resource or advice that how we would be able, or I would be able basically to change my resume in a readable and understandable format in Vancouver?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a North America style. I agree with you. So one of the most important things, this is a very, very wide topic. It can take one full webinar by itself. But one very high level advice I can give you more is first, I know for a fact that people like to see your top skills or your qualifications, technical strength on the first page. And what's more important than that, they like to see your achievements, your highlights. For example, you managed 25 projects up to a budget of 30 million. You managed to automate the processes in the office from manual to X, Y, Z program. You managed successful projects. You went through a challenge. You designed something. So people like to see highlights of your career, achievements that you did. In the Middle East, I rarely see this as a requirement, but here in China too, like I've worked in Shanghai for 3 years, and I've recruited so many in our offices there. But here in North America, I've seen lots of stress about this. This is almost a must to be on your first page, bullet pointed, and if they get convinced with this, they will carry on to the next pages. If not, then I don't think that this will be of interest to them, unfortunately. So unfortunately, because of the number of applications or submissions recruiters and companies receive, they sometimes judge the book by its cover. So make sure the cover of your book is very solid.
Thank you, Rami. Thank you for crystal clear
You're welcome.
answer. So I think we came to the end. If okay, all right. There is another question from Liam, I think. So Liam is asking, the issue I'm finding is even getting a chance at an interview with organizations. I do not have any office project coordination experience. All I have is the field experience with projects. Any tips to make myself stand out above others?
Liam, you already stand out, and you will ask me why. I'm going to tell you. It's because field experience is much more difficult than office experience. So when somebody has field experience, for me, as if I have a company and I'm recruiting, I will value this person a lot. Why? Because when you are in the office and you have field experience, you can make sense of the estimates. You can make sense of the design drawings. You can make sense of the budgets, schedules, because you have the practical experience. For example, some schedulers do not have field experience, and they put activities that overlap. But when somebody have experience, they review as a project coordinator working in the office. If you review the schedule from your experience in the field, you will figure out, oh, this might not work. And theory is good, but practice something totally different. So for me, I understand you might not find at the moment a chance, but you stand out. Like somebody moving from the field to the office within the same industry, doing project coordination, I find so much value in recruiting this person because they will excel in their office work. I know it's probably not the answer you were looking for, but that's the truth, Liam. You already stand out. It's just a matter of getting in touch with the right organization and find somebody who believes in you. But these days, recruitment is not so big, as I said, because there is so much high level of uncertainty that still employers are very, very, very hesitant. I hope I answered at least part of your question, Liam.
Okay. Thank you, Rami. I would like to ask everyone, to invite everyone to ask your questions, because if there is no more question, probably we're gonna close the session very soon.
Yeah, so there's a follow-up question from Brendan in response to Liam's question. So the question could be, could it be more of a question of how you can revise the presentation of their skills, say on their resume, to get over the barrier of perhaps not having that that office project coordination experience?
Absolutely, because I'm pretty sure 100% while you're doing field work, you do some kind of coordination in the office too, whether it's a site office or not, doesn't matter. So yes, totally, Brandon. Presenting your skills in the right way is a very important thing.
Yeah, so another question is, this may be a difficult one. So to you specifically, Rami, out of all of your certifications, which one do you see as the most valuable?
That's a very easy question, all of them. I don't have any certification that's redundant. I do my due diligence, I study every certification, and I see how it fills any gap that I have or adds value to my existing knowledge and experience. So I spend time and money not just to add some badges. I don't need to add badges. I really enjoy learning and improving myself. And so all of them, truth said, all of them. And I also wrote another article, as a matter of fact, about the added value of some of the certifications, like probably 10 or 15 certifications, how each one added a different value to me, even if it's a little bit, it's still value. So all of them, to be honest with you, and I'm not being unrealistic here. I'm being so honest. All of them, yes. Well, thank you guys for the opportunity. I appreciate being here, and thanks for everybody who attended. It was a very lovely session and very meaningful questions.